In this video, I'm going to show you how you can blend colors to create new ones and new values using colored pencils. So colored pencils are something that pretty much everyone has used, but you've probably never been taught to use them in a way that's going to make a really high quality artwork. This is what you're going to learn today. So we all know with colored pencils, you can press light and get a light value, and the harder you press, the darker the value is going to be. However, if we were to use this to get a fade, it's not going to look very realistic when we're trying to create the appearance of form. Instead, what you should do is layer different colors to create different values. So I'm going to do this by shading a sphere. So I have just a little tracer here. Just tracing around lightly with a pencil. Because if you do your pencil too dark, then sometimes the pencil will show underneath the colored pencil. So I can start by controlling my value. So my light source is here, and I'm also going to have a cast shadow underneath it. So I'm going to start shading really, really lightly with my pencil to do my highlight. When we shade, we always do small circular strokes. And I am barely touching my pencil to the paper right now. And I think I can get even lighter. All right, we always do small circular strokes with colored pencils, because that's how we get a really nice blend. All right, circular strokes are the way that colors can blend together effectively. So we always do this, small circular strokes, really, really tiny strokes. This is time consuming, it should be. If you can shade an area fast, you're doing it wrong. Because if I go like this, I shade an area fast, that value is much more uneven than the first one. So small circular strokes to get it nice and light. Okay, and then as I work my way out, I can start putting just a little bit more pressure on my pencil, still not much. My stroke should be even smaller. Don't get impatient. This is supposed to take a long time. Colored pencil is not something you can use quickly. I'm going to speed this up a little bit and get through a little bit more shading, and then I'll go give my next direction. Okay, I'm getting to the point where I need to really start darkening this shadow more than can really be accomplished just by changing the pressure on my pencil. So instead of continuing to just layer up and make it darker, I actually am going to switch to a different color. Now, this is where we get into a little something called color theory. In this class, we have talked about color schemes and complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So the complement of purple is yellow, the complement of blue is orange, the complement of red is green. When you mix two complementary colors together, you get a deep, dark brown. So when we're making shadows on a form, you should always start with the complement. So since I'm using red, I'm going to grab a green colored pencil, and I'm going to go over my dark area, where you start to get darker, and I'm just doing these tiny little circular strokes All right, just a little bit. I'm barely touching the paper with my pencil because I don't want it to get too dark yet. All right, just a tiny, tiny bit. If I need to, I can go back with my red, kind of help blend in that green a little bit more. So then, as I'm continuing to work my way down the sphere towards the core shadow, I start by placing in some red. Remember to keep those small circular strokes because that's how they're going to blend together well. I start with some red. Then I go back to my green. I'm doing my small circular strokes with my green. I'm just doing this small area for now. I'll speed it up when I do the rest. And I'm going to go back with a little bit more red to help it blend. And the more green I use, the darker it's going to appear to be. So I'm going to keep going with the sphere and speed up the video for you. Okay, so there we go. I have used green to create the core shadow, make it really nice and dark. Now, the one other thing that you can do to help darken your core shadow is to use another color, and that color is brown. I know some people might think that black is the way to make a shadow darker, but with colored pencils, black tends to make things look muddy and gray, and brown is going to give you a much richer looking shadow. So I can go back in here where I want my shadow to be really, really dark. And I'm just going to blend it out with the brown. Again, the small circular strokes to help it darken. Like that, and if I need, I can go back with a little bit more red and help it blend. Right? Now, I have not forgotten about the cast shadow. That's part of the sphere. White is the one place where you can use black to help create value, but even then you don't always have to use black. For example, sometimes the lighting in an area can be very yellow, In that case, you might get more of a brownish cast shadow. Sometimes cast shadows can look sort of blue on white surfaces. So if you don't want to use black, that's fine. If you choose to use black for a cast shadow on a white area, just remember to start very, very soft, because you can always go darker, but you can't make it lighter again. So I'm just shading here along the edge. Very, very lightly. And then as I'm continuing to let it fade out, I can then go back and darken the areas closer to the sphere as needed. So I'm going to speed this up so you can watch that happen. Okay, so I've added the cast shadow, it gradually fades out and gets lighter. I also added a dark blue background just for visual interest, and I hope you noticed that I used orange to kind of make it darker and more interesting than just the blue of the colored pencil itself. So you can use these skills to draw a sphere, and you can use these skills to help create shadows in your artwork. And you can also layer colored pencils and blend them to achieve different colors. So here I took a regular blue colored pencil, layered orange to get a darker blue, more of a navy blue as opposed to just the straight blue of the colored pencil. That is going to give your work more realism and more depth and make it more interesting to look at. Now, your task is to create 2 practice spheres in your sketchbook. You need to do one warm color. So that is this half of the color wheel. And you need to do one cool color, which is the other half of the color wheel. All right, so one warm and one cool. Happy blending!